guys, and in today's video we are going to be showing you the new squirrel feeder.
Thanks for the introduction, Emma. Coming up in today's video, I take down my fateful squirrel feeder and replace it with a shiny new squirrel proof one. Plus, Steve from SJ Pest Control is out controlling the greys with his new ATN 4K scope. Some of you may be aware that I've been using a particular type of squirrel feeder for a while now. It's my homemade jar feeder, and the reason I specifically used a jar was simply because I could actually see whether or not the nuts were going down from probably 80-90 yards away from the road. I cut myself a little passageway all the way through to the feeder to see if it needed topping up. The downside is it wasn't a massive jar, so therefore the nuts, when the squirrels were really on it, were going down significantly. So speculatively browsing the internet one day, I came across Squirrel Management UK. Now these guys make some pretty awesome feeders. I've used one in a previous episode at a different farm, and that was the Generation 1. The new redesigned Gen 2 has a couple of features and advantages over its previous model. The first of which, for me, is an FAC rated plate. That means it's going to withstand that extra oomph of us using those FAC air rifles. This narrow platform here at the bottom has been designed for a squirrel to sit broadside on, so you can get a headshot against this toughened backplate. They do also make non-FAC rated versions with a slightly thinner backplate, and I believe those are a little bit cheaper as well. One of the other plus points of the new revised version is a sloped roof, and now this should prevent squirrels sitting on top. It's not so much of a problem here, there's plenty of decent backstop with this big thick tree that it's on, though I can see why that would pose a bit of an issue in other areas. One of the other things this has up and above the previous generation is a redesigned catch. The first generation one, it had a catch internally that you had to poke a nail through a hole to release it. This one here is quite straightforward. As you can see, it's got mesh around the entire body and platform to prevent, if the feeder runs dry, the squirrels gnawing away to get at what's inside. Should the squirrel get inside the catch, you've actually got a second grate in here. Now I've filled this up right to the top, so at the minute you can't quite see that, but I did film a short snippet before I filled it with nuts as well, but again that should prevent any damage to the feeder. Another introduction is some eyelets at the rear of the squirrel feeder, allowing you to wrap either cord or a strap to allow it to attach to a tree or a post of your choice. Feature number 4 above the previous one is internally the walls of the ramp that feed the nuts into the feed trough here have actually been sealed, so you don't get a build-up of dust. Certainly on the previous model, I know that when the weather was damp, etc., that dust turns to mould and it can spread pretty rapidly inside. So that should keep everything neat and tidy and at the front here into the feed trough. Speaking of which, this feed trough is made out of some pretty tough metal and has been well and truly bolted in place. So once again, unlike wooden feeders, it's not going to get gnawed away. It should be able to withstand the test of time quite well. And lastly, each of the squirrel feeders sent out also comes with a little spinner target. I'm not a fan of drilling into this nice feeder myself, so I've bolted this one just to the side of the tree. That enables you to be able to, when you arrive on location, put a quick round down onto this spinner and check that you've got a decent zero. The target itself is only an inch or so in diameter, so it's roughly the perfect size for a squirrel's head. So as you can see, the feeder is well and truly up and in place. All we've got to do now is simply fill it with some nuts. It holds around 6.5 kilos. I buy these sacks from B&M's, they cost about £13. Speaking of nuts, let's pop over and see Steve from SJ Pest Control and see how he's been getting on.
Hi guys, I usually get asked what kit I use to shoot squirrels, rats and all my stuff. Basically, this is what I use. I use the ATN 4K Pro, 5x20 that one is. I use the HW110 A177. Brilliant gun, absolutely brilliant. The high chair lovely comfy chair, to be honest though. It's a bison chair, it's a fishing chair it is, but it works really well. It folds away, you can, like, it's easy to carry. Also I use for the squirrel feeder, I use the GoPro. This one's a GoPro 8, the Hero Black. Basically outstanding footage if you're interested in making videos for YouTube and stuff like that. And let's move this aside. In this bag there, I basically I carry all my stuff for like tripods, the camera netting, bits and bobs I carry in this bag. Fishing bag, the netting, I think I had it from Amazon. I bought 2 lots of it from Amazon. I can't remember how much it was, to be honest. It came in a roll, tightly packed roll. But that's basically all my setup, guys. That's what I carry around. You know, it's not heavy. I can carry it to hide, set it up, and quite easily carry it back to the car.
Okay, so Steve's now in position. You can follow the instant action with him by following SJ Pest Control. You can see he actually forgot to remove his keys though once he'd got set up on today's session. He did go and get them after he'd got the first squirrel down. Early doors there were a few about. This should be a good session. As you can hear there, the Virak 110 sub 12 foot-pound rifle absolutely deadly silent as the first jittery squirrel got off the feeder. The second squirrel, slightly less dominant squirrel, was waiting in the wings to get a nut, which was a fatal mistake. Now some of you may be thinking, well, why doesn't he take the shot just then? But the trouble with squirrels, until they're settled with a nut in the mouth, they can be really unpredictable. There's no telling when they're about to shift body position, and if you're about to come down now onto the head to take the shot, as you'll see, it just in a second scarpers off with no kind of warning that they're about to do it. So the best way and most efficient way of controlling these critters is to wait until they are feeding, and only then it's the right time to take the shot. As you'll see here, and once again it switches position without any kind of warning. Absolutely poleaxed it there with the 177 pellet, straight to the brain box, barely a flinch.
He's having a good look to see where the mates go. I shot them all. And you're next.
Okay, so that one didn't want to settle on the feeder, but it's not long before the next squirrel comes down for a chew on Steve's nuts. This guy had a little bit of Limp Biscuit action. Keep rolling, 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 rolling. Keep rolling, 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 rolling. Well, after that little Limp Biscuit had finally finished rolling around on the floor, it was around 50 minutes later that our wary friend finally plucked up the courage to come down and have a chew on the nuts. I've often seen this from headshot squirrels, almost 10 seconds that squirrel hung on for, like a scene from Cliffhanger, but it was definitely a definitive headshot as it barely moves once it's on the deck. And that was some of Steve's fantastic session that he had there. As you can see, he had many more, but head over to his channel SJ Pest Control to see one of Steve's latest videos out this Friday, which he tells me is his best squirrel video to date. Right, well that's the feeder installed, topped up and ready for action. I've got some housekeeping to do here on the hide itself. It's been a little neglected over the last few months and used by the pigeon shooters. Thank you very much for watching though.
Stay safe and as always, happy shooting.
I'm going to be out of a job soon.
Tell me what you gonna do now.